AOA podcast. Hello, Monday episode. Oh my God, do we have a jam-packed show for you, including ceasefire, war over, Dunskies, as far as Israel and Iran goes, at least for now. We'll see. Give you all the details on the huge announcement just made public by President Trump. We'll also discuss this shocking move by the Diddy defense. I don't know if this is going to work, but a lot of the legal experts seem to think so. And finally, we've got Meghan Markle being slammed by a master chef. I'm not picking on her. Somebody else is, but we'll share what that master chef is saying, all coming up on this episode. Remember that song? Something a party. I liked music back in the old days. Not to sound like a geezer here, but I liked it when they didn't even really need lyrics. You know, you go back to that La Da Dee song, and then you go back to Under Pressure. You know, they were just making noises. It was good back then. You know, it was really good back then. This is hurtful right off the bat. Ann has his 45-47 foundation on. Well, first of all, we're messing with new studio settings. So that's one thing. Does this look okay? Do I look orange to you? If I look a little orange, it's because I got burnt to a crisp. You want to see my white trash? Hold on. Let me give you the old white trash. Prepare yourself, ladies. I'm about to break the guns out. Okay. Here's the white trash tan that I got over the weekend. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. Who fell asleep in the sun over the weekend? See, I have to explain something to the rest of the world. In New York, at some point when we went from 2024 to 2025, New York turned into Seattle, and we've had nothing but rain every friggin' weekend since literally the beginning of the year. And this weekend was the first weekend we had like a sunny weekend. It was like 80 something degrees. So we went to the beach. And I don't know if you know this, but if you have two children, there's packing the car. Well, first I had to find where the beach stuff was. Is it in the shed? Is it in the garage? So I had to find the stuff, pack the car, find all the toys, get the beach chairs, clear it off right? Get all this stuff, get it into the car, go from the car to the spot, dig up so I was outside for like, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour and literally burnt to a crisp before I got some lotion on. So that was your old pal Ant's fault. That's why I look like, according to Paul, I have my 45-47 foundation on. Now, see, Paul, this is going to come back to bite you in the ass because you think you're making jokes, but somebody from the Trump administration is going to see this and they're going to go, bing, light bulb. Here's a chance for us to take more money from our stupid supporters, and they're going to actually start selling that Trump foundation. So, you know what I'm saying? Shit might have reversed for you there, you know. Splurge for the cream, and now at the See, I used the Astroglide with the purple cap, and that's where the red cap would have been. The red cap's like SPF 50. I went for the 30, and that came back to bite me in the ass. Christella, same here. And in New England, rain. Now it's hot as I know. Now all of a sudden it's gonna be like 90 degrees for the rest of the week. It's like a heat wave around here. All of a sudden, we just went from winter to summer. No spring. We didn't have a spring this year. It sounds like a lot of work. You know, beach with two kids, a lot of work. It's a lot of work for Cuddles too. She's packing sandwiches and throwing away sandwiches, buying food from the beach place, you know, a little beach hut, all that kind of stuff. It's crazy. I did learn something about myself, which is that I need to be near a beach. I cannot be in one of these. Like Wyoming is not a place where your old pal Ant can live. There's something about the ocean water was freezing this weekend, and I still jumped in and felt totally great and rejuvenated. You know, thanks, Bird. Yes. Instead of suntan, I'll just tell you, look at my skin cancer, everybody here. Look, it's like a lot. Like, look at that line. That is like, it's like lobster, clam chowder, lobster, clam chowder. Look at when you press on it. Look at what is that? That is definitely cancerous. Okay. Let's get the show started before I die. Israel and Iran ceasefire. Did not see this coming today. So started prepping the show early in the morning. Lots of talk and conversation. The Kremlin at one point, which who really gives a shit what they say, but still in these trying times, you gotta kind of be everywhere. But early this morning, the Kremlin was like, hey, just be aware that other nations might give Iran nuclear weapons to use, which is like typical Russia just stirring up shit, because who wants to get on the United States of America's bad side? And that's not a cocky, like, American thing to say. We literally we have a ridiculous amount of money on defense every single year. Like, we just have weapons to use. I don't understand why anybody would want to poke the bear if they're not involved to begin with. So that's one thing, but that's what the Kremlin said earlier today. And then around like 9 or so, I started to hear a lot of talk and chatter, experts chiming in that the Iranian leader is already planning a little, let me sneak away, let me get the hell out of here kind of a thing. You know, he named a successor the other day for fear of being assassinated. And then there were all sorts of conversations about his family, the other members of government, their families starting to sneak out of the country, trying to get away, trying to find, like, there was a point at like around 10 o'clock this morning where I was like, oh, we're going to talk about the Ayatollah just abandoning his country. And I would totally get it, because he's a dead man. You know, I mean, he's a dead man. The writing is on the wall for the Ayatollah. A majority of the people in Iran, although I did see some reports that people didn't really love the attack from the United States out of nowhere. But again, if you have any sort of brain in your head, Iranian brain or non-Iranian brain, you would recognize that this was a very limited attack on nuclear sites. Civilians were not attacked. By the way, if you want to really stir up some shit with the country, you attack them in the middle of the day when everybody is at a location. This was done at like 2 o'clock in the morning when there were not a lot of people, you know, in these buildings and in these facilities. So it was done with the most care it could possibly have been done with. If you recognize that stuff, like, it doesn't take much to realize these people don't love this leadership. The rest of the country, the rest of the world doesn't love this leadership. You're the odd man out. You know, if you're the Ayatollah, there's nothing really keeping you in power. It's one thing if your people love you blindly and they're there to support you no matter what, and they're going to take up arms and they're going to join the army and they're going to fight and they're going to do whatever they can. That's one thing. This is not the situation that the Ayatollah has. Let's not forget, this is an oppressive, shitty, awful government. You know, Iran, look at what it was compared to what it is now. These people do not love the current leadership. They're afraid of Hamas. They're afraid of Hezbollah. They're afraid of all those terrorist groups that do as much damage inside that country as outside that country. So this guy wasn't winning anybody over. So with that being said, like, the writing is on the wall. Either you're getting tossed or you're getting, you know, flat out removed. You know, might as well sneak away. Maybe you can get away with, you know, living the rest of your life, at least living. That's not always a guarantee in these situations. So I could totally see that. That was the next thing that happened. And then after that, around, I don't even know, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, we started to see the Iran is striking back. All right. Find out what's going on. I think everybody was like a little concerned at first to see what's going on. Turns out they launched, I don't know, 6 ballistic missiles at a base in a U.S. base in Qatar. None of them landed. They were all intercepted. And you just look at a move like that and you go, that was the biggest might that they could muster up to respond to us taking out 3 huge facilities. And then, of course, there's all the threats of, well, there could be a terrorist attack in America. There was a warning that was issued at some point, I think on Sunday, that Iran was going to wake up the sleeper cells in America and activate all these people. And also turned out to be a lot of talk and a lot of chatter. Here we are. It was around 6 o'clock or so. again, Eastern Standard Time, when President Trump made the announcement on his Truth Social that Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. Here is what President Trump said. Congratulations to everyone. It has fully been agreed by, it has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. That was his Truth Social post from just moments ago here today on this Monday, June 23rd. Now, hopefully all goes well over the next 24 hours. I don't know if anybody's rooting against that at this point. And this thing comes to a close, and we'll see some peace here between Iran and Israel in what could be a move that, calms down that entire region. Remember, there was, again, over the weekend, talk about closing down that strait where all of Europe and Russia and China get some of their oil through. There was talk about that. The fact of the matter is there was no real way for Iran to retaliate. And I think what we've learned here over the course of this weekend, since we launched the strikes on Friday or Saturday, I should say, and coming into Monday, is Iran is a shell of a country. It's not, there's no real power. They're not a powerhouse. They're not a military power. They just don't have what it takes. They've got some ballistic missiles. They could launch some strikes. They could, affect some things nearby, but there's no real threat there. Fingers crossed. Listen, could the threat of terrorist acts be real? Of course. I think we've seen terrorism evolve from what 9/11 was, which was an amazing, well thought out, choreographed, incredibly well planned, event, down to people just shooting up places and driving cars through crowds, right? Like the idea of terrorism has evolved greatly. At one point we thought, well, that 9/11 is a terrorist attack, and then again, that has evolved to some small scale events. So could that happen potentially? Yeah, that could happen. Sponsored by Iran, not sponsored by Iran, not sponsored by Iran, and inspired by Iran. There could be plenty of people or Islamic extremists or whatever you want to call them, Iranian sympathizers that without any direct contact with Iran decide to do something, and do something terrible within the United States of America. Of course that could happen. You hope it doesn't, but it can happen. But right now, all signs point to Iran had nowhere to go. There's just nowhere to go and nothing to do. They couldn't deal with the military power of Israel, and they certainly didn't want to start getting involved with us, and not for nothing, because I know there's plenty of fault to go around here, canceling the first Iranian agreement, nuclear deal, and all that stuff. There's really nobody that doesn't have anything against them that you can make a point against them. Benjamin Netanyahu talking about this, them having the ability to have a nuclear weapon for like 15 years, right? Everybody's got a little thing against them, but credit Israel and the United States of America, for people that are like, I didn't vote for this guy, or I voted for Trump because I didn't want him to start a war and I knew he wasn't going to start a war. Credit to him and these other people, again, with all criticism applied, with all warranted criticism there. these people could have gone, well, regime change, and you got to start doing things differently. They could have taken that extra unnecessary step. They didn't. I know that's not a great point to make, but it is a little silver lining. It's a little silver lining. This could have gotten out of hand. It could have easily been done. We could have seen it escalate and gone to the point where Netanyahu or Trump got pushed and was like, well, then, this regime change and this or that. There was certainly plenty of threats thrown around. I think Donald Trump at one point said, like, we know where we know where you're hiding out. It's not going to be hard to take you out. Interesting thing to say, effective, possibly, when you look at the results now that they back down pretty quickly. Whatever the case is, you could have easily seen, look, it's not like we haven't overreached in America in the past. I mean, the Iraq war was maybe one of the most disgusting things that we've ever done. I mean, to just carry that on and, again, missions in Afghanistan, taking on those terror cells. It was horrible. It lasted way too long, right? But I think we neutralized or got rid of a lot of really bad people who was really hard to find. You look at some of the work that our Marines did, to get some of these people that were responsible for not only 9/11, but for just continuing the nonstop America-hating terror cells. There was some important work that was done there in those times. But Iraq, the weapons of mass destruction bit, all that jazz, I can't get behind that. I never could. I never could. So we could have easily found ourselves in another one of those situations. So credit these two leaders for not doing what leaders tend to do, which is escalate things and get them out of hand. Everything was kind of kept at bay for the most part. For the most part. You could have seen this going far worse, and it could still go wrong. So let's, you got to just hope for the best here in this particular instance. There, I mean, again, and so much happened in such a short amount of time. Like I said, the leader thinking about running and the terror threats and all that stuff that went into it. At the end of the day, it was, cooler heads did indeed prevail. And thank God for that. Now, I wonder where we go from here, what we build upon. You still got to think about reaction from the Iranian people, and what they do. Do they decide to rise up? Do they decide to make some moves? Does this still lead to some unrest? I don't know. This is pretty funny. Wait, just tuning in. Trump took out Iran with the White Castle belly bombers. Oh, those White Castle belly bombers. Oh, man. White Castle is one of those only places that specifically makes drunk food. Have you noticed that? That White Castle is not really good any other time. Do people walk into White Castle at 2:00 in the afternoon completely sober and go, this is delicious? I mean, I guess maybe they do. They do have a business model. I just feel like here in New York, White Castle made its money between midnight and 4 a.m. That was the White Castle time. I could remember having White Castle literally once in one. Okay, I had White Castle when I was a kid. I got so sick, I never went near it. And then in my drunk 20s, I had White Castle again. I remember waiting in the drive-through line for it, just thinking this is a horrible idea. This was around the time shortly after they introduced the chicken ring sandwich, which I'm like, fried calamari is in a ring. Chicken is not in a ring. I was like, I'm pretty sure. I've been eating chicken for a long time. I know there's a wing, there's a thigh, there's a breast. I never remember the ring portion of the chicken. I don't know whose idea. I don't know who's drunk and high in that board meeting when they were like, why don't we put chicken in a circle? Maybe more people will buy it. It's crazy. It's crazy what White Castle's doing. Crazier than what Iran has been doing, to be totally honest with you. Christella, you never had it. Consider yourself lucky. Your insides, your gastrointestinal system thanks you. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me. Hasn't been the same since Mount Sinai. Yeah, we've lost a lot of White Castles. You know what's amazing about White Castle? They sell that shit in the supermarket frozen, and you could just stick it in your microwave, and literally it is the exact same taste as it is coming from the store itself. There is no other product, right? Like PF Chang sells shit in the frozen section. TGI Friday sells stuff in the frozen section. That you can't get to taste the way it tastes in the restaurant, which is not that much better, let's be honest. But that White Castle, you just microwave that shit, it's exactly the same. It doesn't make a difference. It makes me think, like, pulling up to White Castle, you just got to go. Do you have like 14 microwaves back there? Like, what are you using to cook this? Because it feels like you just got 14 microwaves. I got to save myself a lot of time by just going to I think at the 7-Eleven they have White Castle too. I'm pretty sure they have like the White Castle in the frozen section. It's just nuts. It's just nuts. This is hysterical. So happy I still have the touch to derail and from the main topic. Bring back the crossover. So Brian used to do the show before me at one of the radio stations I was at before I hung up the old radio headphones. And we used to do these crossovers where I always felt so bad because he had done a whole full day of work. He had done a whole shift, did the whole thing. He had an important shift too there. He was handling traffic and news stories and this and that. I was just goofing off and being an asshole. But he used to stay and we used to do stuff together. Oh my God. If you think Frank is good, holy cow. Oh my God. Frank is substitutes. Frank's, I'm going to have to apologize. I'm going to have to send an apology text later for this. But I couldn't get Brian, so we got Frank. That's basically how the podcast was born. But just joking, of course. So, all kidding aside, the time that I did radio with Brian was some of the most fun radio bits ever. And there were times we used to do 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. And then before I knew it, towards the end, it was like, hey, you guys are doing like 45 to 50 minutes now. What's happening here? And I'm like, we were like, I don't know. Everybody seems to be enjoying it. Nobody's complaining. But as happens in radio, people get afraid. There are no really good leaders in that business. Everybody goes, oh, I don't know. Maybe stop. I'm nervous. We might be finding something amazing. And so we had to put a stop to it. Plus, they didn't appreciate the extra work that Brian was putting into it, was the thing. Oh, yeah. The cigars and the ice cream on the back deck. Oh, yeah, man. I used to literally, I've talked about this before, but I used to pick like, I don't even know, Steely Dan, Deacon Blues, the Meatloaf, what's that, anything for, I used to take like 7-minute songs back to back and go out back and smoke cigars. This is the fucking radio station was on the most picturesque land ever. And I would literally just go smoke cigars. I'd drive into town and get ice cream. I got so fat during that time period. Oh my God. So fat. That was pre, during, and post. Well, not really. I didn't really last post pandemic, I guess. But yeah, that was a big Ant needs a treat time because of everything that was going on in the world. Brian is Bizarro Frankie, or is Frankie Bizarro Brian? I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. I know one day Frank and Brian will do a podcast and go, what were we doing with that other asshole for so long? Boy, was he just dragging us down. Once we got Ann out of the picture, everything really opened up. It was unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? It was really unbelievable. And then Robin, you will say to Bird and vice versa, like, oh, you actually didn't miss we were the opposite. Now's the good times. We were in the bad times before, kid. That's what you guys are going to be saying. I'm telling you. So anyway, there was one more point I wanted to make with this whole stupid Iran and Israel thing, and it's just gone out of my head. I totally lost it. Him trying to escape, naming the successor. We hit that stuff. Them talking about fleeing Iran. Boy, that would have been so interesting. I mean, I guess that's still a possibility. Who takes over then? Hopefully not a bigger asshole. I mean, you think of it all the times. You're like, like Castro was like maybe Castro, get rid of the old, bad regime. Well, that turned out not so great for everybody, you know. Oh, he didn't show up. He didn't show up for a negotiation somewhere. The Ayatollah. There was potential. The negotiation. Maybe it was last week or whatever it was. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it was the bombings themselves. So bunker busters. Everybody was saying how shitty. Oh, that was it. Everybody was saying how shitty it was that we did this, but it may have been the thing that was necessary. I mean, we may go to find out. I remember what the other thing was too. Here we go, tying it all back in together. We may go to find out that this was the thing that really broke this country, because if they didn't have that, we'll get there one day and we'll show everybody. Maybe that's why it's so easy to agree to a ceasefire now. Maybe they just don't see a path to it. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to just lie in wait, so it's kind of thing we're always going to have to keep track of it. But listen, ceasefire is the first step to getting an agreement together that they don't enrich any more uranium. And then you get the UN to go in there with inspections and so on and so forth. So it's all got to start somewhere. There was a report. This is the other thing I forgot. There was a report that just days before they blew up Fordo, there was like a slew of activity, like lots of trucks moving in and around that nuclear facility. So a lot of people are wondering if they were able to get a lot of those materials out. Again, that's something that we won't really know. Maybe they could have, maybe they could not have. But when you look at, they talked a lot of shit after we took out those facilities, and then all they could muster up was six little, they were popcorn farts at the end of the day, that were all intercepted in the U.S. base in Qatar. That was practically nothing. You got to just think that this is a country just licking its wounds right now. They don't really have much of a leg to stand on other than tough talk. I also, I don't want to make you guys sound like I know somebody in the State Department or anything like that, but you do some research, you call around, you message people and shit like that. And the sentiment that was kind of coming back, and had this conversation early today, and then I started to see the same kind of talk everywhere. So I don't want to make a claim like we're bigger than we actually are, as far like I don't know anybody in the State Department, like I said. But the sentiment that started coming around on all of this, which, again, because a lot of people have fault with Benjamin Netanyahu for doing it now. There could have been more peace talk. There could have been more this. There could have been more that. A lot of those people are going to be silenced with the ceasefire, right? Especially if it continues, because it shows that maybe this was, again, this and the attacks, maybe it was the thing that really had to get Iran under control. But a lot of people were going after him, saying he's been saying this for years and blah, 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 and this is not. Why do it now? Why do it now? And, when I came on here the other day, I was saying maybe they were getting too close to comfort, But the sentiment that I'm starting to hear now is it wasn't that they were getting even closer, or they were 3 weeks away or 3 months away or 6 months away, whatever it was. It was the opportunity to get the people and the hardliners responsible for dragging this country to the brink of nuclear war, right? So he's talking shit. Everybody's mad at Iran's talking shit. Everybody's mad at Benjamin Netanyahu. Then he does this and everybody goes, see, this guy is just a warmonger. He's just trying to keep himself into power. I don't doubt there's an air of truth to that, because this was the big thing with him coming off of October 7th was he's going to go crazy. He's going to keep himself in power now. I think there's a little truth to that. But I also think it is an interesting idea to think about, what if all the stars align? What if it all works the best right now? What if this was the moment where intelligence, Mossad, whatever, for Israel could access, identify, and take out the hardline people, the people that are driving this country to the brink of nuclear war? The people that, despite the whole entire world, I mean, the world doesn't agree on much, but the whole entire world agreed that this country should not have nuclear weapons. But you have this small group of people, 38, 50, whatever, 60 people that are constantly pushing, that with the Ayatollah are moving everybody to this direction. You kill the Ayatollah, that's a different story. You kill some underlings, people could look the other way on that. People could look the other way on that. You remove a person, you buy it, you break it. We saw that with Iraq, right? I mean, that's a bigger responsibility. It's weird. You take out one person, it could be a bigger thing. You take out 38 underlings, people could look the other way on that. It's strange to say, but it's true. The idea is that Israel saw an opportunity to do this. Maybe this never presented itself before, and perhaps it might never present itself again, to go out there and strategically remove these hardliners from the equation. I know it stinks, but it might have been the thing that helped us get to a ceasefire. If the Ayatollah doesn't look around the room and see all these people rah cheering him on, keep going, death to America, all this jazz, it's a lot more lonelier when you don't have that. You can tend to move towards a ceasefire or a way of peace, or just be like, the writing's not on the wall. I don't have it. I don't have the cards to play here to make this, sort of a thing happen. So it could have been just an instance of, it was the time. It was the right time. Never forget that President Clinton had a chance to kill Osama bin Laden during his administration when he was president. President Clinton had that chance. President Clinton's term ends. Osama bin Laden does the worst thing to America since Pearl Harbor. So you don't get a lot of these chances. And the reason why President Clinton didn't take the chance was because he was at a wedding or something. If I'm remembering this wrong, somebody correct me. But I believe the story was he was at a wedding, a religious ceremony, and it would have been looked upon as, it would have just been looked down upon in the international community. He didn't do it. At that point, it was like, well, it's just a threat. Who knows if he could actually pull this off? And boy, did that come back to bite us all in the ass. So for everybody who wants to criticize Netanyahu, fair. Again, I can't say it's not unwarranted that he's been able to use these wars, these military strikes, as a way to stay in power. It's the truth. I don't know if his intentions are bad or if it's accidentally happening, but it's kind of what's happening, right? It's a fair criticism of Netanyahu, but at the same time, Clinton's in the same boat as Netanyahu is, looking at a potential threat in Osama bin Laden prior to 2001. He doesn't take the opportunity, and 9/11 happens. If Clinton looks the other way on the rules, if he looks the other way on who cares what the international community thinks, or I might get some bad press or some bad shit for this, but I'm going to do it anyway because there's nothing but evil coming out of this particular person, all these terrorist camps, all the stuff that's going on, all the plotting, all the planning, all that. If he just goes, I can weather that, and this is a serious threat to the country, and I'm going to take this guy out, who knows? The Twin Towers might still be here. So, I look at a situation that Netanyahu's in, and I go, well, you got to think like that sometimes. Sometimes it ain't so clear cut. You don't get to Monday morning quarterback things. Sometimes it's either you take action or you regret not taking action. And in this case, Netanyahu took action, President Trump took action, and by all signs, it looks like it's going to be okay for now. It is Monday. Like I said, this changed and evolved. So this story changed from this morning to showtime 14 times. We could be talking about something totally different on Wednesday. Hopefully we're not. Hopefully this sticks around. Speaking of something we might be discussing on Wednesday, the Diddy case. The Diddy defense team today said that they are not going to call a single witness. This is a stunning maneuver by his defense team, and it signals that they think that they are winning this case. That's exactly what that maneuver means. Now, they weren't going to call a laundry list of people. There was, I mean, anywhere from 3 to 5. Everybody seemed to feel like there was going to be 3 witnesses for the defense team. Diddy, when he had the gun charges, he did go to the stand himself. He is not going to go to the stand. Obviously, they don't have any witnesses. That includes Diddy. Diddy's not going to the stand, so he's not testifying, and they are not calling any witnesses of their own. It's a big move. Why are they doing this? The burden of proof is on the prosecution. It's the prosecution that has to prove racketeering, RICO. They're the ones, they have to do all that. You know what I'm saying? They are the ones who have to do it. And the defense team going, yep, once you wrap up your case, we're going to be good, signals to the world they don't have the jury here. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it's a bold move to not go in there and try and prove your case. Now, the defense team has been cross-examining the prosecution's witnesses all along. So they obviously are willing to just lean on that and say that that's good enough. But I don't know. I would be a little weary. It's a kind of a big gamble because you have to assume that you are reading the room right with the jurors and that the prosecution hasn't done enough to, get him convicted, which is a pretty bold move because, again, we've talked about some of the things that have come out. I mean, Diddy, this is a horrendous, like, he might not get convicted of the RICO, the racketeering and all that stuff, but in the court of public opinion, he is a massive piece of shit. And the jury's not going to forget that. And the prosecution, part of their case is hoping that they'll just be, amazed at what a big piece of shit he is and just vote to put him behind bars, because what else are you going to do with a human being like this? And I was thinking about this today. What happens? This has all come out now. What happens if he doesn't get convicted? Does anybody touch him ever again? I mean, just because you don't get convicted of those charges, it doesn't mean that it's been well documented and proven that you've done horrific things to a lot of people. There were a lot of people on that stand singing the same song about what this guy was doing behind the scenes, and they are not nice things. I don't think Macy's is going to want to carry your cologne and your clothing line. I don't think, is Spotify going to want to put Diddy's music on there? After this trial is all said and done. I understand them leaving stuff on now. It's innocent until proven guilty, but are they going to want to, is MTV going to want to do business with him? Is iHeartRadio going to want to play him on all of their stations? I mean, you remember when Michael Jackson had all those allegations against him, they pulled all that music right off of those stations. When he died, they put it all right back on. It was amazing how quickly we forgot. But is anybody going to want to do business with him anymore? I don't know. I don't see how. I mean, but I'm naive. I thought that Chris Brown we would never have to deal with that guy ever again after what he did to Rihanna in the back of that limo before that award show. And they just keep giving Chris Brown opportunities. I remember when Chris Brown came back on the Chris Brown comeback tour, I got into an argument with one of the other stations that was in my company because I was like, why are you adding this song? And they're like, well, he's going back on the Today Show. It's amazing how you can get spineless people to just think the way you need them to. Because he's going on the Today Show. So what? He's a woman beater. Like, he doesn't deserve. And also the song sucks. I could get it. You could make an argument with me. I'd still disagree with you that the song was great. We need to. The song is shit. He's shit. He does shitty things. Be gone. There's no fucking reason for this. There's no reason at all to be beholden to these people that are just fucking awful. Now, there's some good comments coming here. This is pretty true. Paul makes a good point here. Did he say he found God's grace? Yeah, don't they always find Jesus after these moments? That is one way they get people to bring them back into the fold. I found Jesus. Then all the Jesus people are like, all right, praise the Lord. We found Jesus. Got to forgive. I think forgiving is great. I don't think we got to forgive Diddy. I mean, is that crazy? I know. I read all the Jesus stuff. I'm up to date on the Bibles. I always forgive, right? I'm in favor of that. But maybe this is the exception. Maybe we go, Diddy, Epstein, Hitler. I think we can let that forgiveness bit slide with those people. I think there's a few people. I think if we could ask Jesus, we got to find one of those people who gets to talk to Jesus and Jesus talks back to them. We got to get one of those people to be like, ask Jesus if we can not forgive Epstein. See, I think he'll be okay with it. Better find Jesus before ICE does. By the way, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Trump today. They lifted the limits on Trump deporting migrants to countries not their own. I think it was a 6-3 decision, not to get people upset. Yeah, the six conservative majority ruled that they were like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I know a lot of people are still unhappy about that, but believe me when I tell you, those kinds of deportations occurred during every administration. I mean, maybe not the Biden one, but Bush and Obama and Clinton, they all did the same thing. It's just people don't like Trump, and it may make it look a lot worse. He moves faster. He's unforgiving. He's difficult. He doesn't relent. People don't like that. The left doesn't like that. The left likes to put moral pressure on people and have them canceled and everything. The left love doing that. When Trump came and disrupted that, they were not happy with that. And that's what's happening right now with this particular instance. But Supreme Court stepped up for him today. So that's that. I don't have anything to say on it. The immigration thing, I don't have an opinion on it anymore. So that's the Diddy case. So literally what we were looking at with Diddy, that could go on for another 3 or 4 weeks with the defense laying out their case. There's a possibility that the Diddy trial could be over by Friday. On Friday's episode, we could be discussing the end of the Diddy case, which is pretty unbelievable. Now, it's not that the defense won't do anything. They can present evidence. They can go over things with the jury. They can do all that. They can definitely present evidence. The prosecution has already approved whatever, that evidence list has already been done and taken care of. So they can, put on their case that way. And of course, closing arguments. But to go up there and not put anybody on the stand in your favor, they're signaling not just to the public, but also to the jury, the prosecution didn't do their job. That's why they do that kind of thing. They're basically telling them prosecution didn't do their job. That's it. That's it. Let's see here. Paul says ICE has deported 70 U.S. citizens. To be fair, though, nobody liked them. I checked up on it. It was a lot of, neighbors who leave their dogs out overnight when it gets cold. At least 25 of those 70 people, Paul, reportedly never bring a bag with them when they walk their dogs. Most of them were dog people that they didn't like. So I'm just saying, I don't want to get into a fight about this, but I heard all 70 people kind of had it coming to them anyway. Like, if you're asking me if I could deport some American citizens, I'd send Tucker Carlson. Yeah, answer the question, Paul. Right now, everybody, if you had a chance to deport Tucker Carlson, you wouldn't do it? I would do it. I would do it in a second. I'd be like, El Tuckero Carsono, get that father. You don't check that passport. It ain't real, man. Get that fucker, that awkward laughing hyena, the fuck out of here. Nobody would have a problem with it. Everybody who's screaming for due process would be like, shit. Well, maybe. And maybe we don't need the due process. If we can get rid of Tucker that fucking fast. Imagine we don't have to deal with. Thank you, Flying White, just for his goofy, ill time. I've never seen a laugh more awkwardly placed in any conversation than Tucker Carlson. It's amazing to me the amount of times I have said, why is he laughing right now? I've never said that more to any other person in my life or about any other person in my life. It is so... he just like his eyes... It's fucking off. Listen, I don't think anybody has a good laughing face. Mine's horrific. But Tucker Carlson is Emmy Award winning bad. I mean, it stinks. So I'd deport that motherfucker twice. If he snuck back in, I'd be like, he's back here. Even if they were grabbing an illegal immigrant, no, behind him. But yeah, him. Bow tie. Get that fucker. Get him out. Well, this is aggravating me. I don't like it when the thing goes, when our titles go on two lines. That doesn't look neat. Let's try this. Oh, there we go. See, all is right with the world. Bird goes, bite your tongue. My laughing face is amazing. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Some people, listen, Bird, some people are beautiful. Some people are blessed with amazing laughing faces. Your old pal Ant didn't get either. And I'm not saying that, I'm not fishing for compliments. You don't have to be like, oh, Ant, you're cute. You don't have to do that. I know. I have mirrors. I know what's going on. People have photographed me. Like, I have this fucking thing in my face. I got to look back at. I have to okay all the clips that go out. So I'm well aware of how rough this is. By the way, kudos to all of you for watching all of this. I mean, I think most of you are just listening in the background. I did see a picture of another listener, a viewer that was watching the show like this. They were just like, I get it. World is better when we had J-Sabs on camera more. That was the show did such better numbers. So I'm never going to deny that. Ever going to deny that. Meghan Markle. Okay. I don't like to get involved in the Meghan Markle stuff. I don't want to be accused of picking on her. But I didn't start this one. Again, this is not on your old pal Ant. Turns out there's a jam expert. Her name is Chef Donna Collins. She was on MasterChef, in fact. She is a jam expert. I like to fancy myself a food expert, but only because I eat it really well. I don't really make it all that great. But according to jam guru Donna Collins, she slammed the ever-loving shit out of Meghan Markle because... for no other reason other than the fact that she called her jam spread. Donna Collins says, talking about the apricot spread that was sold out on Friday, it's a real disappointment that Meghan is selling a fruit spread, which is what you make when your jam fails. Oh, shit. Burn. Burn. Now, I know chefs. I am friendly with a lot of chefs. You don't talk about another chef's jam. Okay? That is a place you don't want to go. You can say a lot of things about chefs. Don't insult their jam. You know what I'm saying? Donna Collins is a jam expert. She's like, fuck that shit. Her jam sucks. She goes on to say, in the jam industry, a spread, I didn't even know there was a jam I mean, I knew jam existed. I knew a lot of people made it. I didn't know that everything qualified as an industry. But anyway, in the jam industry, a spread is what we call something that didn't work. It can have the best ingredients, but if I had a jam that was too runny, I'd slap a label on it and call it a spread. There's no excuse for this. It should be perfect. Boom. Roasted. Collins also called out Markle's use of conventionally grown apricots, which have used pesticides. And she also said, why is she using pectin, which is a gelling agent, unless it's because her spread was too runny? Most spreads don't use pectin. Meghan Markle's apricot spread has pectin in it, so that kind of like keeps it together. So she's basically saying she's making a shit product and then using a chemical to keep it together, which is super interesting because in our Bobby approved world that I hope we're all living in. I mean, your old pal Ann's living in it. I hope the rest of you are. I've been trying to get all that stuff, enriched flour, those dyes, pectin, all that stuff. I'm trying to get that shit out. We had a sponsor on the show early on, the Hero Soap Company. They didn't use parabens in their soap. That was my first big thing. I'm like, what's a paraben? Cancer causing agent. Not good for you. Great. Why am I rubbing it against my body once a day? You know? So want to get that. Okay, I want to get all that shit out. I can do enough damage to myself with substances. I don't want these fucking corporations sneaking shit in to do damage. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've got this body. I'm going to kill it myself with cigars and Oreos and all that shit. I don't need people sneaking shit into my pasta and my spreads, fucking me up even more. I'm working on doing that. I'll be damned if you're going to take that away from me, you know? Collins didn't let you think I'm obsessed with Markle. This Collins, she went on to say that Markle's success was due to her only making a small batch, saying, quote, I don't know who's making her spread, but we all know it's not Meghan. It sounds like they really don't know what they're doing. And she only sold out because she's making a small batch. Burn. I like when it comes from a chef and not an overweight, but still kind of handsome podcaster, because a lot of people have issues with what I say about Meghan Markle. And I bring up these other experts because it's like, it ain't just me. This is real people telling you what the deal is. Yet still these things sell out. And still there are people out there going, well, she's wonderful. She's great. She's revolutionary. She is shit and a fake, and she is scamming people out of their money. I don't know how you can be upset at Donald Trump for all of his scams and not be upset at Meghan Markle. At least Donald Trump was a shitty fucking New York real estate businessman. Like, those guys are all pieces of shit. Meghan is trying to parade herself around like a loving mother, doting wife, and all this stuff. She divided her husband from her family. You know, she scammed Netflix out of money. She scammed Spotify out of money. She fails to deliver on all these deals. Then she puts 30 jars of spread with pectin on sale, and everybody acts like, why are you hating on her, Aunt? Fuck. I've never seen anybody. I've never seen anything like it. And the only thing I can think of is because, I don't know, she's a pretty girl. And people like that kind of thing. I don't even know. I mean, it's crazy to see the comments that come in. People are like, oh, leave her alone. And again, I don't like to be negative, but when I see a scam being run, I call it out. Everybody says, you're not hard enough on Trump. Called him out for the crypto bullshit. Called him out for the watch. Called him out for the NFT cards. I call a scam out when I see a scam. And Meghan Markle is running the biggest and best scam we have seen in quite some time. She's just out there with her smiles, and all of it is like the deceit. If she had the business savvy the way she is deceit savvy, she would be Richard Branson. I mean, name a successful business person. She'd be Goop. She'd be the Goop girl. Forget her name already. You know, she'd be Kevin Hart. That guy fucking makes a business out of everything. It's unbelievable. She would be so great at it. She's just good at deceit. It's the only thing she's good at. You know? And she's pulling poor Netflix down with her. I mean, I can't imagine what this second season is going to be. And where is it? Weren't we supposed to have the second season by now? Fucking putting, and that's that's the weird part. I'm telling you, what's so strange. RFK goes, we don't need these dyes in our food, and everybody's like, yeah, why are they poisoning it? Everybody finds out eventually, whether at some point or not. Everybody reads the articles or listens to a podcast and discovers, well, they don't have these dyes in the exact same products in Europe. But why are they here? Why are they poisoning us with this stuff? And everybody goes out to seek those natural and organic and healthy for you brands, which are usually small, which most of the time, a lot of time, are associated with a celebrity. And then to find out that this asshole is just throwing pectin in because she can't even fucking make a jam. You know what I mean? And everybody's just like, "Oh, it comes in a keepsake thing, so I'm going to buy it." It's fucking ludicrous. It's ludicrous to me that this is still going on. You know? I would deport Meghan Markle in a second. In a second. And I'd be like this: don't send her to Venezuela. Send her to London. Send her to London. I'll pay for it. I think it'll be hilarious. Send her to London. Christella, this worries me. Kevin Hart is connected with Diddy. A little worried about that because I do like Kevin Hart, but I am in that mode right now of like I'm not defending anybody. I can't go up to bat for anybody at this point. You know. I like this line. Her jam don't bring all the boys to the yard. That's true. Her jam's no milkshake. Whatever happened to that girl? What was her name? Ziggy? Zali? I don't even think it had a Z in it. I don't know why I'm going with Z names. Did Cat Williams call out Kevin Hart? He might have. There's a lot. Okay, here's the other one. Jamie Foxx. I like Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx was out a lot. Jamie Foxx has a lot of Diddy stories that he tells. I was watching a clip of Jamie Foxx the other day talking about he could throw a Diddy party even better for less money. He went like got KFC or something. He's like, you don't need all this expensive food. He's like, just get some fried chicken. That's all you need. That was like Jamie Foxx's story. And I'm like, that clip did not age well. That did not age well. And was that on Club Shay Shay when he called out Kevin Hart too? Yeah. Not good. Not good. Not good. But you think there would be more people out there calling out some of these other celebrities? Did you find that a little weird? I mean, there was that whole Jay-Z dust up, but outside of that, Khalees, thank you, Brian. I was close when I said Zaley. Fucking waste. What a fucking zero. Ziggy. Khalees. Where's I go? Why aren't there other people just coming out of the woodwork talking about, oh, this one did this to me at Diddy's party and this one did that to me? Why there's nobody else is naming other people? Doesn't you find that a little strange? I find that a little strange. Anyway, Khalees was rumored to have once dated Bill Murray. Jesus Christ. I love Bill Murray. I would take a bullet for Bill Murray. I mean that. Is it the funny that people, I don't understand why women are attracted to Bill Murray. Even younger Bill Murray maybe, but older Bill Murray, I feel like Bill Murray's still just slaying ass out there. And I don't get it. I don't. Looks like he's a funny old guy. I love him. I will do anything. I would do anything. After What About Bob? That was. Listen, you could name 10 Ghostbusters and What About Bob, and I will save that. I will jump in front of a bullet for that man. You know what I'm saying? If Bill Murray was at a Diddy party, I would be like, it wasn't Bill Murray, it was me. Lock me up, because I'll lay down for the man. I just don't. Yeah, Bill Murray always looks like he's smelling ass. Yeah, I don't. And you know what I love about him? He's just a crotchety old Chicago guy. Like, he admits it. He had a whole movie shut down, and he was like, yeah, I said something stupid to a woman I was working with. He's like, and we got on each other's nerves. She drove me crazy. He's like, yeah, I'm just a crotchety old man. That's basically it. He's like, I thought I was being funny, and I haven't been, so. Yeah, Jaguar Wright, Christella, go back to, I know now we're just all over the place. Jaguar Wright has been talking a lot of shit for years. She was a basis for a lot of the stuff that basically came to light, but it's like, nobody put her on the stand in this case. Like, I don't know. There's something where people don't want to go all the way with Jaguar Wright, But Jaguar also claims that it's Jay-Z. It's Jay-Z who's the mastermind. In fact, I saw a clip of her not too long ago where she was like, Jay-Z is letting Diddy take the fall for him. You know, you think you're getting the head of the family here, the head of the crime syndicate with Diddy. You're not. She's like, it's Jay-Z. And Diddy's the fall guy. So, you know, I don't know what that is. I don't want to say too much, though. I live in New York. I think Diddy still has a Hamptons house. I don't want that motherfucker running into me at the Cumberland gas station and getting mad, being like, "Are you the dick that you know?" Small 0.1% chance, but I'm still not willing to take it. Not when it comes to Diddy. So anyway, fuck Meghan Markle. I mean, her and her bullshit. I'm praying for season 2 because I just know it's going to be poorly received. And then I'm just going to wait for the announcement from Ted Sarandos and the Netflix people when they go, we've decided to not move forward with this calamity. So if Meghan Markle is going to release a rosé, as she said she was planning on doing, good luck with that. Because if you don't have the machine of Netflix behind you, you're fucked. You're fucked. Because I don't think you're going to push it out with your podcast that's on Lemonada. I mean, this is my whole entire industry now. She finds a podcast network that I've never even heard of. What is going on with her podcast? I'm going to look this up now just to show you how much I don't seek stuff out for her. Is she still releasing episodes of her podcast? Because last I heard, we were at 3 episodes. Let's go to Lemonada here. Oh, nope. It looks like she has been. April 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, May 6th, 13th, 20th. She looks like she hasn't missed a week. But nobody's fucking talking about it anymore. All right, let me see who she's had. The first one was the Bumble one. A woman computer coder was 2. Katie Lee was 3. Isn't that the girl who works with her, though? Jamie Kern Lima, It Cosmetics. Don't know who that is. Clever Blends, Hannah Mendoza. Disrupting the Dress Code with Figs, Heather Hassan. Bootstrapped and Booming with Kitches, Cassandra Morales Thurswell. Does anybody know who these people are? If you know, shout it out. Business is Not a Battlefield with Spanx' Sarah Blakely. All right, the Spanx person, that's kind of a big get, I would say. From Mama to Mogul with Secreed's Tina Knowles. Now, is that Beyonce's mom? Isn't her name Tina? Is Secreed like her brand or something like that? And then the last episode was your next listen, Megan on the Jamie Kern Lima show. Oh, okay. So sorry, I apologize. Her last episode, which is the 18th, which is what, 5 days ago, it wasn't her, it was her on another podcast. That's not a great sign. That would be like if I put me on another podcast on this podcast. I don't know if I would. I mean, I would do that to share, but I wouldn't have it skip an episode for that reason. I would love to know what these numbers are. These cannot be great numbers. She cannot be doing great numbers. Tina Knowles is a get, but that's pretty amazing too because she tried to get Beyonce. Remember, everybody laughed her out of the podcast world that week because they were like, "Beyonce, you're not getting fucking Beyonce." By the way, Beyonce had Jay-Z pop up at her show. Something is going on. I don't know if it's the economy or just the music industry or what it is, but people cannot sell tickets. I saw a story the other day that the Jonas Brothers announced this like massive stadium tour and had to go and reschedule all the dates because they were not selling tickets, and they moved from stadiums into arenas. Now they're still doing some, like they're doing Giant Stadium, which again, that's no, I'm not here to take down the Jonas Brothers. They're obviously huge. If you're playing Giant Stadium, you're huge. But there is a difference between like Taylor Swift plays a stadium everywhere. You know, there are some acts like Billy Joel, for instance. Billy Joel can sell out Madison Square Garden every night of the week. Nobody gets tired of him in New York. He does well in Boston. He does okay in Philly. He goes to like New Mexico, and they're like, all right, he gets he sold out night in the arena. That's it. Billy Joel can sell out 15 nights in a row in an arena in New York and not have an issue. He doesn't even have to, all he has to do is tweet it once and he could do it. You know what I'm saying? So there's different power and everything. But my point is that all I keep hearing about in the music industry is how legacy acts who have been around for a long time, who have sold a lot of tickets, suddenly are having trouble selling tickets. I think the obvious thing is they're just overpricing these tickets. On top of just paying the artists, all the Live Nation, all their 360 bullshit and all this stuff. Yeah, because what happened, Live Nation started selling 360 deals where they just give the artists a bunch of upfront money and they go, you come play all our arenas, our venues, and our stadiums. And so they lay out all this money to get them to agree to those terms. But then Live Nation has to make that money back. So those concert ticket prices go up, parking prices go up, shirts go up. I was at Dave last week, the week before, whenever it was, $60 for a concert poster. And Cuddles is like, get it? You like it? I'm like, I kind of do, but not for $60. I'm like, I don't love it that much. And I love Dave Matthews more than I love Bill Murray. No, that's kind of close. But that's, Flying Away makes a great point. It's true that they're not making the money from streaming compared to albums back in the day. It's very, very true. And again, it's not just the artists. Yeah, there's some issues there with the artists, but it's also the record companies that aren't making that money off the streaming the way they used to do back in the old days. I was friends with a lot of record executives, man. And those guys, some of those guys that hit with the bigger bands, you have to think about, they sold 8 tracks, they sold vinyl, then they sold cassette tapes. I mean, think about it. Some of you guys bought your favorite albums in all those formats. Then you bought CDs. Then you bought the MP3 player. Then you bought the high fucking thing. And then you signed up for Spotify. I mean, I must have bought the White Album fucking 19 times over the years on all the different formats and shit like that. Like, those are great revenue makers on one piece of content that they made 70 years ago. They don't have that sort of a thing right now. But I hear from a lot of people that they're just not selling tickets anymore. And Beyonce, that was the story about Beyonce. Countless news stories about you can buy tickets day of for a Beyonce show. Couldn't do that 12 years ago. And so over the weekend, suddenly Jay-Z pops out at a Beyonce show and they're performing on stage together. I'm like, boy, she is trying to move some tickets. Because you're more apt to buy tickets thinking, oh, I'm getting Beyonce and Jay-Z at this show instead. And that without it even being announced, without it even being announced. I mean, I think it's just crazy what's happening in the concert industry right now. And it just feels like we're on the brink of a collapse of some sort. I mean, we're kind of already there where, who was the other? Was it Blink 182? I forget who it was. They announced a whole tour and then they were like, we'll rethink this. And they had to go back and announce all new dates in different venues. It just, I don't know. Also, again, not to sound like an old fogey, but I think this is just because I'm getting old. If you're young, you tell me. When I was going out and buying music and actually physically holding it, it meant more to me than it does now. Now I hear great songs and I forget who it is, or I'll throw it on a playlist and then I won't ever listen to it ever. And then like 6 months later, it'll come on. I'm like, oh yeah, this was a good song. And then I'll forget about it just as easily. Whereas when you went out to buy a record or buy a CD or a cassette tape, you fucking played that thing over and over and over again. I also think it's not just the streaming versus buying, but it's also like, do you remember 20 years ago, 25 years ago when You got home from school or work or whatever, and it was like, there's no good TV shows on. I'll just put on some music, and you just fucking hung out. You stared at the ceiling. You stared at the packaging. You leafed through a magazine. You were drawing or whatever you were doing, and you were just listening to me. You were doing something else just to listen to music. And now it's like, maybe I'll just scroll TikTok for 3 hours. Maybe I'll just stream a show or something. Like, it's just so many options. Maybe I'll scroll X. I fucking missed the liner notes too, man. Oh, Paul, I missed the fucking liner notes. Used to read that shit. Do you remember? I remember like one of the first couple of times you'd thumb through that, you'd go, holy shit, there's a fucking address here. Sometimes you'd get lucky and you get the write the fan club or write this or write that. And you'd be like, I'm going to fucking write I'm going to write the fucking fan club. Or there'd be some sort of new information you'd find out in those liner notes. So fucking great. I could remember, boy, not to make this a Dave Matthews podcast, but I could remember hearing Before These Crowded Streets. Now that was 98. So there was internet, but it wasn't like today, right? Like this, I think you had to dial up back then. And I can remember hearing, Don't Drink the Water, and going, is that fucking Alanis Morissette? I think that might be Alanis Morissette. And then you would hear it on the radio, and nobody would be like, Dave Matthews Band with Alanis Morissette. It was just Dave Matthews Band before Don't Drink the Water. And it wasn't until I bought the album and had to go into the liner notes, and sure enough, it was backing vocals by Alanis Morissette. And I just remember thinking, God damn, Alanis Morissette is backing up the Dave Matthews Band. She was fucking massive back then. It almost didn't make any sense that she would take a back seat to another band. And then she was on another song on that album, Spoon, and I was just like, holy shit, she's on a fucking... It was all that discover. You got to discover it on your own. It was so fucking great. And you just wouldn't know if you weren't in the liner notes, And then sometimes they would put little messages and shit like that in there. Lots of musicians work together like that. It's cool when it happens. Dude, Michael McDonald, like half his career was that. He'd be here cutting a Doobies record, and then all of a sudden go over here and just backup vocal on a steel. Like what he just like was just like, oh, I'll fucking sing on that. Like just all that cool. That shit happens so many times. So many times. You never let record people get in the way, back then. Man, those are fucking great times. I could literally just remember I don't know, having dinner with my parents and then just going into my room, popping a CD into my stereo, laying on the bed, looking up at the ceiling, and that was it. Just listening. Look at the notes, look at stuff. Maybe you would thumb through Spin magazine or Rolling Stone magazine to find out new information. I mean, you really had to work for stuff back then. And it's so crazy to see my kids now. My son is like, is this a thing? And I'm like, I don't know. He just grabs his Kindle and starts looking it up. Those were the days, kid. You just missed it, kid. We had liner notes back in the day. Linderella, that was the exact stereo I had too. We called it the Iowa. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but we were like, got an Iowa stereo, man. 3 CD changer, suck it. I could play 3 fucking albums without having to get up, man. Got my CD tray. That whole thing would come out, and you'd get pissed at your little cousin or somebody who like, don't put it in so hard. You just gotta lay it. Just put the CD in your, just lay it down. Don't fucking press. You're gonna snap the drawer, and then I can't listen to my 3 CDs, dude. That was the fucking time. And then I can remember, like, my dad bought a stereo, and his had like this cartridge, and you would just load like 5 tracks in the cartridge and put that shit in. I was just like, I would just remember, I'm like, it'll never get better than this. I'm like, it will never get better than this. And that CD player, that was a component. Gather around, kids. We had we had the CD player, we had the record player, the cassette tape player. That CD player, you would load it in, and then it would shuffle between the things. So it would pull track 2 from disc 1 and then pull disc 3, track 4. You would put it on shuffle and it would literally pull all that stuff in. And that we had never seen anything like that. Yeah, you could make a tape. You could bring your CDs and make a mix on a tape. But that was it. That was it. To have that all being happening on a CD player, that's how I started listening to Tony Bennett. It was a technological thing because my dad would be playing that, and I'd be like, I have to hear this. Go play another record, and he would be going from fucking Frank Sinatra to Tony Bennett to the Beach Boys to Zeppelin 2. There were no rules back then. Flow was not really a thing. It was just, but it was fucking amazing. Amazing. And then those cartridges eventually found their ways into stereos. I never had one. We were poor. But I could remember like people being like, yep, load my 5 cartridges. It would always be in the trunk too. For some reason, because it was too big to fit in the dash. But you'd put your 5 cartridges, you'd load it up in the thing in the trunk, and then from the dash you would be able to to play and all that. And then it got really fancy where you had the single slot, and then you could put like 5 discs. But that was kind of towards the end of the whole car phase. And then they literally just stopped putting CD players in cars. I'll never forget that too. I think Frank held on to his previous car because it had CDs, which is such a Frank move. It's such a fucking Frank move to do that. Pioneer. Yeah, Pioneer was a good one. Pioneer was a big time stereo system. If you had Pioneer, I feel like I don't want to insult Linda Rell. That Iowa, I think that was like a knockoff. I think it was an okay one. The Pioneer ones, and if you had a Sony stereo, the Sonys were a big deal too. That was big time sound. The Sonys, yeah, I never forget that. Man, those were some fucking great times. If you grew up in the 90s, 80s, 90s, again, I'm 42, so I feel like I was part of a really good generation. There was a few good generations, when albums became accessible and kids were buying albums in the 70s. That was a fucking great time. But we can't overlook the 90s because not only did we have a wave of amazing music, Alanis Morissette, Dave Matthews, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, right? All that, Biggie, Tupac. Like we had great music in the 90s, but we also had a little thing called Columbia Music House. And what was the other one? I can't remember. Where you can get 11 or 12 CDs for a penny. This, my friend, was a great time because you had that new 3-tray Iowa sound system, little stereo, and you were like, shit, I'm going to get 11 albums for a penny. It's going to be fucking great. And then a month later, you were like, who are these people? I got another album. I didn't order this. Why is it $39? What's going on here? And then by the 3rd month, you were like, holy shit, I'm fucking $150 into my 11 CDs for a penny. But what was weird was, I don't know if anybody else had this experience. We started getting albums get sent to the house with bills. And my dad called up the company. He called up Columbia House. With the little stamp. Do you remember? Fuck. Oh, we got to look this up. There used to be in the music magazines, there would be a page in the middle of the music magazine, and it would be a page full of stamps. And like was it the opposite side of the page? There would be 11 slots, and you could fill out your address and everything. And you would pull the stamps of the records of the albums that you wanted, and you would put them in the little slots. And then you'd fold up the page. I think there was like an envelope in it too. If I'm not mistaken, it would like fold into one of those cards where no postage was necessary. And you would send them in. And that was it. You had a little fun with your little stamps. I'll take this one. I'll take the. You would look at it for hours. Which 11 am I going to take? You think you write a list or do whatever, and then you would send it in. And yeah, fucking Brian. Anyone else kept from getting a mortgage because of Columbia House Music of the Month membership? Yeah, before those darn credit scores. Yeah, but I remember like around the third or fourth time there was a seat. Oh, this is what happened. My father got sent. It was like the fourth or fifth month, and we got sent a Beach Boys box set with a huge bill. And I was like, Dad, it's Beach Boys box set. And he's like, let me see this. And he looks at it. He goes, what the fuck? He's like, what? He lost his shit. He called up Columbia House and he goes, do you know you're selling stuff to a minor? He's like, my son is 14 years old. He can't be ordering stuff. Have you lost your screaming at this person? And I'm like 14 or 12 or whatever, 13. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to come and arrest you, Dad. You can't yell at people like that. And all of a sudden he goes, well, yeah, your apologies appreciated. Don't send any more shit to my house. And he goes, I'm sending all this stuff back to you because you shouldn't be. And they were like, no, sir, you keep it all. You keep it all. And he hangs up the phone and he goes, got the box set for nothing. And he was like, now watch me load all 6 of these CDs into our CD changer. It's going to be great. Yeah, that was unbelievable. And then he tried to talk me out of a life of crime, which was really, I was like, wait, you just helped me scam Columbia House. Now all of a sudden you don't want me selling bootlegs on the street. It was a very confusing childhood. Also, this was the same man that used to take me to the track to pick winners. And then I would get ice cream when I picked the winner. And then when I didn't pick winners, we had breakfast for dinner. So really the fact that I turned out so good, it was not due to him. It's not due to Dad. A lot of bad examples there. From the big cat, as I like to call him these days. But yeah, those Columbia House, BMG Club. Oh, was it BMG Club that had the stamps, not Columbia House? Yeah, I don't really remember. But I remember the funny thing about the stamp thing was every time I got it in a magazine, even if I didn't turn it in, I would still do it. It was almost like the very first early mock drafts. Like, you know how the baseball draft or hockey drafts now and people fill out their little mock draft? That was the first thing I was like, all right, if I was going to send this in, which I'm not, but if I was, okay, these would be my records. These are the best. You move your little stamp. I would still complete the stamps in the magazines, even if I had no intention of sending them in. I can remember doing that a million times because every like 3 months or so, the albums would totally change. It would completely change. So you could do that kind of stuff and still have fun with it. What else were you going to do while you were listening to music? You know what I mean? Like there was nothing else to do. There was just nothing else to do. Theory, how many records did the record companies buy to bump an artist up the chart that they needed to upload for a penny via Columbia? Yeah, that's true. Probably a lot of that shady shit happened. Probably a lot. It was probably a lot. I'll tell you, you know what's funny? Brian probably knows a bunch of, but I got to, what's his name? Ron something, the guy who signed Michael Jackson after the Jackson 5. There was a couple of other guys. I actually got to talk to the guy who signed Dave Matthews because I was doing podcasts and stuff. He had gotten a studio and I was doing some consulting on some podcasts. I was helping them produce them and put them together. People don't know what the fuck they're doing when they get into this stuff. So I go in and help them out. And so I was doing this at this guy's studio where we were producing a bunch of podcasts, and he had a gold record on the wall for Dave Matthews. And I was like, "Do you know Dave?" He goes, "Oh yeah." He's like, he wasn't the guy who signed him or anything like that. He wasn't, I know all those guys, but he worked on, I forget what it was now, but he worked on a bunch of his stuff. And he without, and he said to me, he goes, you can't tell people these stories. He's like, well, I'll tell them to you. There was one scam out of the next, like just ripping artists off out of money and shit like that. But that whole business is fucked up. That whole business is structurally flawed, where they will just waste money on 99 artists and then hit with one and then recoup all the 99 artists before that were failures out of that one artist that made it big. And they felt like that's only right because they were giving those people the opportunity. You lose that argument with the Spotify's and Apple Musics of the world because now they don't need record labels to put them on and do all that kind of shit. But yeah, and shady radio stuff too. Like I'll never forget when I first got into radio. It might have been Maroon 5 actually, or who's the other, Train maybe. I'll never forget my first radio job. I'm doing promotions and the program director walks in and he's all pissed off. And it was a huge artist. And this was a small Long Island radio station. Like nobody gave a fuck about this. This radio station reached a 7-block radius. It was tiny. But as I learned in college, a spin is a spin is a spin. And the way the industry worked was if you got spins, it didn't matter if you were on a 10-watt station or if you were on a New York City station. A spin was a spin. And it was like gold to these record labels and these artists. So he got mad because they put a promotion together with the big radio station on Long Island that would always kick the shit out of the radio station I worked for. And he goes, I'll never forget. I think it might have been Train or it doesn't even matter. It was a big artist. And he goes, yeah, they're suspended. And I went, what? He goes, yeah, they've been suspended. I go, what does that mean? He goes, we'll play them, but only at midnight, after midnight. He's like, they're going to get all their spins after midnight. Nobody's going to hear their shit. I remember thinking, you're not that big. You're not making the impact you think you're making. And I was wrong because they relented. I forget what they did to make it up. They sent us like a signed guitar, or they did wind up coming in because that was the kind of thing. It was like, hey, if you're coming to Long Island and I'm playing your record, you better be at my studio. You better go on my morning show. You better visit the Lunchtime Girl. You better sign, some memorabilia for the charity auction we got coming. Like whatever it was, like they had to kiss the ring, for lack of a better term. And I'll never forget, like, you grow up listening to the radio and you think, oh, this song is so popular. They played it on the radio or they made it big, or everything was just so organic in your head. And then you get into the business and you're like, that person is suspended because they upset me. And I was just like, what is happening? I'm like, nobody listens to us. Why would you think that would work? And it worked. Now he didn't get like a listener concert compared to the big radio station BLI for Brian. He probably the only one that's going to make sense to, but he didn't get what BLI was getting, but he got something, he got something. This was pre EHM days, Brian. This is Up Island. He got something. And I was always amazed too. I saw a lot of artists come through there. The Fray was the biggest one I got to see. I took Huddles to the Fray, actually. The Fray, they broke way before anybody else played them, and they were huge. They were playing the Fray, and then the Fray hit it big, and they were already locked in to come in, so they did a private show for us. Who were the guys who did Gel? And Where the River Flows. Who was that band? Collective Soul. We had Collective Soul, which was like way above our head at the time. They came in and did a private show for us. There was a bunch of guys. Not 3 Days Grace or 3 Doors Down. There was another pretty boy band towards the end of the rock era. I forget their name. This guy had a deep voice. Everything she does is beautiful. Everything. It'll come to me. I remember that dude coming in studio, and he recorded an interview because he wasn't there at the right time. So he came in and recorded a studio. So we were in the shittiest production studio. And this guy who was playing theaters at the time, I don't think they were playing arenas anymore, but they had been. It's one of those pop rock bands. I could see, there's you and me and all of the people with nothing to do. Who's that? Who are those people? Somebody find out who that is. But that guy, he came in, and I just remember like he's in this shitty studio with like the same like wall treatments that I have, but it was like all crusty and falling apart. It was like the production studio that nobody ever went into. Lifehouse. Oh fuck, Brian, you're on it tonight, man. Like the guy from Lifehouse. This was oh 04. Trying to think, where was I? CBS. I can't remember. It was Lifehouse was still a big deal. And again, they were going to BLI, but they made a stop to us. And I just remember the Lifehouse guy walks in, and he's like looking around the room, and he looks at me and I look at him, and we exchange this glance of like, what are we both doing here? Like, he looked at me like, you shouldn't be in the room with me. And I looked at him like, I don't know why I'm in the room with you or that you're even in this room. Doesn't make any sense. And I just remember thinking, this guy sings his heart out to 10,000 people a night. Women are throwing panties at this guy. And he is in a shitty production studio above a liquor store in the middle nothingness, Long Island. Singing is like, you still got to sing good. You still got to put out a performance. And the mics went on, and he fucking sang his little heart out. And he sounded so. I remember even thinking, like, fuck, this guy's really good. Because when you're in the room with talent, it hits you hard, which is my favorite thing in the world, by the way. I was talking to this guy today that I'm helping out. We do some projects together. Social media guy, and he's in another state. He sends me a clip of something, and I've known him for a while. You know, we help each other out from time to time with stuff. And he sends me this clip. He's working on something, and I'm like, I just said to him, I texted him, I'm like, you're so fucking talented. I was like, I knew you were good, but we're interacting like a lot over this little project that we're working on. And I'm like, you're so fucking talented. I love that discovery of talent. There's nothing better. But me and Lifehouse guy, he fucking sang his little heart out. And I just remember thinking, like, the big radio stations are going to pay off for him. Our little shitty station is not going to do anything. And he was still there, just still had to put the time in, still had to sing. It was just amazing to me. It was just totally amazing. No, I wish the Goo Goo Dolls, Sarah. I never had I don't think I ever did anything with the Goo Goo Dolls. Got to do something with Coldplay once. That was pretty fucking cool. That was a fun time. Maybe we'll share some of those other stories, the olden radio days. Every time, every one of my stories, though, everybody's not going to believe it. And every time I didn't believe it. So I was just like, I shouldn't be here. This doesn't seem right. This shouldn't be happening. Well, the station that Brian and I were at, what's his name? Margaritaville was there. He showed up one day, and I'm like, but that kind of stuff. And Jimmy Fallon, Howard Stern, we used to get lucky. We used to get lucky with people all the time. But it's kind of amazing. You know, it's funny. I did one of those like college talks podcasting things not that long ago. Yeah, Jimmy, and Brian, was that the last like radio appear? Because he didn't die like a week after, but it wasn't that long after. 6 months maybe. I'm sure he probably did some other radio stuff. But I did one of these college seminar things just to wrap it up. And, you know, one of the kids asked me, like, how do you get interviews? How do you, get interviews? Possibly the very last radio broadcast ever for the song When the Gummies Kick In. That's a good point. See, they can hang their hat on that. That's a brag. This kid asked me, how do you get all the good interviews? And I remember saying this, and it's so true. If anybody out there is thinking about doing these things, it's very true. People are more willing to talk about themselves than you think. Even huge people that could be doing way better things will still stop and talk to somebody if they have a connection or are given the opportunity to present themselves in the way they want to be presented. You know, I have that feeling doing the show sometimes. Friday's show was so much fun. You know, And everybody was so kind. Like I finished Friday. Sometimes you finish these shows and you go, I got that one right. Not that it's great or the best podcast. It's not about that. It's like, did I execute that well? And sometimes you feel so good about it. And other times it's like tonight's show. Where it's like, I don't know if we gave anybody anything on this one. This seems like we should be refunding people. You know? That's a good song title, When the Gummies Kick In. Yeah, Jimmy was very... Oh, I feel like even Willie too. There's something about when you get up there in age as a musician, you just go, I'm just gonna start singing about weed a lot more. That's kind of, I think, what happens. And it happens at different ages for other people. For Snoop, it happened at like 18. For Willie, it kind of came a little bit later on in life. But the best is when the sales executive wants you to interview the owner of the cesspool company, but it's the region's biggest cesspool company. Did McCartney play on When the Gummies Kick In? That's interesting. Yeah, that's a sore subject with me because I feel like somebody stole a McCartney interview right out from under me. I was really upset about that. I'm still sour about it. Our station got Paul McCartney once, and the afternoon guy took it instead of giving it to the morning guy. But that's a whole other story. That's a whole nother story for another day. Bless your heart, Christella. I appreciate that. It's weird though. No matter, and everybody's always so kind to me, and I always appreciate it. But it's something that you feel. Even on the radio show days, there would be some days where I'd come home and tell Cuddles, I'm like, I'm really good at this. And then like the very next day, you're like, no, I was wrong. And it's incorrect. That's why I can sympathize with pitchers. Like, you can have great pitchers throwing 99 miles an hour and they go out there and all of a sudden it's the end of the first inning and they're out of the game already. Like, that shit fucking happens. Diddy was diddling his talent. Ant longs to work with Meghan Markle. I'd love to be in a room with her. I'll tell you that much. I don't know about working with her, but if Ant had a dating profile, it would say enjoys long walks on the beach with Meghan Markle. It might say enjoys long walks on the beach complaining about Meghan Markle. That might be a thing that I could see happening. But yeah, something to that effect. All right, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys as always. Bri, always good to have you in the mix. Always so much fun, my friend. I hope to see you again soon. What else? Let's hope the ceasefire continues. Boy, do we want that to keep rolling on. We'll see what happens. Again, today was one of those days where the podcast, yes, but the stories changed 14 times. I wonder what's going to happen over the next couple of days. Went from, is this guy going to flee his own country? Are other countries going to give him nuclear weapons? Is there going to be masterminding terrorist attacks? All this stuff. And then we landed on ceasefire, which is the greatest possible outcome that we could have had. So everybody can go to sleep tonight feeling good about that. And hopefully there's no other incidents. Hopefully we're incident free all the way up till Wednesday, when we'll join you again around 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll do it one more time on the Friday here. That's the AOA podcast. Appreciate you all as always. Take care of each other, and see you on Wednesday.
Show me potato salad.
Enjoy that Taco Tuesday.
Maybe we should go now. Go ahead.